There is a particular sound paper makes when someone destroys it slowly, not in a burst of anger, not by accident, but carefully, like they want you to hear every inch of it. That was the first thing I remember. The second was the smell of rosemary chicken cooling on the table while my future lay in pieces beside it. My name is Hannah McBride. I am 17 years old. I had practiced this moment for weeks. I would wait until he took his first bite, until he nodded at the seasoning like he always did. Then I would slide the envelope across the table and say it plainly, not pleading, not dramatic, just true. I got into Penn State. That is what I said. Ray wiped his mouth with the back of his hand before opening the letter. He read it slowly, like he was checking a plumbing estimate for errors. I watched his jaw tighten halfway through. Judith sat at the end of the table. Caleb kept staring at his plate. Ray folded the letter once. Then he tore it clean down the middle. The sound cut through the kitchen. He tore it again, and again. Then dropped the pieces onto his plate, right beside the chicken bones. "No daughter of mine needs a degree," he said. His voice wasn't raised. That made it worse. "You want to end up miserable like your mother." The clock above the sink ticked loudly in the quiet. "I earned a scholarship," I said. My voice sounded smaller than I meant it to. $14,500 a year. He gave a short laugh through his nose. "I called them this afternoon." He said, "Admissions." My stomach tightened. "They wouldn't talk to me," he added, irritated. "Privacy policy." But I downloaded the decline form from their website. "If you don't enroll, the offer expires." Simple. He reached into a folder beside his chair and slid a printed form toward me. My name was typed at the top. Penn State University. Official. Real. "You don't get to make that call," I said quietly. "You live under my roof," he replied. "I make the calls." Judith's fork stopped moving. "I worked for that," I said. The words came out before I could soften them. "You didn't even let me apply to community college." Ray leaned back in his chair. The wood creaked under his weight. "You have responsibilities here," he said. "Life isn't campus tours and dorm rooms. Your mother had dreams too. Look where that got her." There it was, the old weapon. Something twisted inside my chest. I hated that part of me still wanted him to be proud. It felt childish. Weak. "Sign it," he said again, tapping the paper. I looked at my name in bold print. I imagined signing it, ending the argument, making the room quiet again. My hand didn't move. "I'm not signing that." Caleb's head snapped up. He stared at me like I'd shattered a plate. Ray's eyes narrowed, but he didn't yell. "You're not going anywhere," he said evenly. "You start at Rosie's next month. 30 hours a week. I already spoke to the manager." Judith set her napkin down. "Pack her bags," she said. Ray turned slowly toward her. Then he laughed. A real laugh this time. With what money, he asked. "Where's she going?" Judith stood, calm, steady. "To my house," she said. Ray smiled like he was humoring a child. "This is my house." Judith reached down beside her chair and lifted her leather handbag onto the table. It landed with a solid, deliberate weight. And for the first time in my life, my father hesitated. Ray's smile faded when Judith opened her bag. He did not stand up yet. He stayed seated, like if he didn't move, nothing would move. "Mom," he said, calm, warning, "stay out of this." Judith didn't answer him. She took out a stack of papers, neat, clipped together. She set them in front of him. Ray glanced down, then back at her. "What is this supposed to be?" "My house," she said. He laughed again, softer this time. "You're confused." "I'm not." He picked up the first page. I watched his eyes scan it. His fingers tightened around the corner. "This is old," he said. "This doesn't mean anything. It was filed in 2003. She said, after your father died. Ray's jaw moved like he was chewing something bitter. "I've lived here 20 years. He said. "I paid utilities. I replaced the furnace. I fixed the roof. And I paid for the roof," Judith said, "with a cashier's check. I have the receipt." He looked at me then, like I'd set him up. "You knew about this." I shook my head. "I swear, I didn't." My chest was pounding so loud I could barely hear them. "This is manipulation," he said. "You're letting her turn you against me." Judith's voice didn't rise. "No one is turning me." "I'm standing." Ray stood up then. His chair scraped hard against the floor. "You'd evict your own son," he said. "Over a college application. Over control," she said. He pointed at me. "She's 17. And she has a scholarship," Judith replied. $14,500 a year. I've saved $24,000 for her. Ray blinked. "You would I put aside $250 every month for 8 years. You hid money from me, I protected it." He ran a hand over his face. For a second, he looked tired, not angry, just exposed. "You think you can throw me out? I'm giving you 30 days, she said. "Support her. Or leave." 30 days. He laughed again, but it cracked. "You wouldn't dare." Judith reached into her bag again and pulled out her phone. "I already called David Mercer," she said. "He's drafting the notice." Ray stared at her like he didn't recognize her. I didn't either. "Not exactly. You're destroying this family," he said. "No," she answered. "You did that when you tried to sign her future away." He looked at me again. "Is this what you want?" he asked. I felt my hands shaking. I hated that he could still make me doubt. "I want to go to college," I said. Silence settled over the table. Heavy. Final. Ray stepped back. Not much. Just enough. And I realized something I hadn't before. The house had never been his. Ray didn't sleep that night. I know because I heard him pacing past my door, back and forth, slow, then fast, like he was trying to walk it off. The next morning, he acted normal. That was worse. "Eggs are overcooked," he said without looking at me. "You cooked them," I replied. He stared at me. I don't usually answer back. I don't even know why I did. "You think this is funny?" he asked. "I think you signed me up for a job without asking," I said. He shrugged. "Rosie's needs help. 30 hours a week? Steady. You don't need a campus." I never agreed. "You don't get to agree." Judith walked in then, calm, coffee in her hand. "She won't be starting at Rosie's," she said. Ray didn't look at her. "This doesn't involve you?" "It does," she said, "because I'm the one funding her tuition." He let out a short laugh. "You're going to cover everything, room. Board. Books." "She has a scholarship," Judith said. $14,500 a year. My savings covers the rest for year 1. We'll figure out the rest. Ray snapped. "You and her," I watched him say it like I wasn't even there. "Yeah," I said. "Me and her." He stepped closer, not yelling, just close enough to make me feel small again. "You think college changes who you are?" he said quietly. "You think they care about girls from Carlisle I don't know?" I said, "But I want to find out." He shook his head like I'd disappointed him personally. "You're throwing stability away." "Whose stability?" Judith asked. He didn't answer that. I could see it then. He wasn't angry about money, or even college. He was angry about losing the final word. He turned to me one more time. "You leave," he said. "Don't expect to come back." It hit harder than I thought it would. Judith stepped between us. She won't need to. Ray stared at both of us, like we'd broken some rule he thought was permanent, and I stood there thinking something reckless. What if he's right, and I don't belong anywhere else? That thought scared me more than him. Ray didn't wait 30 days to push back. He waited until the next afternoon. When I walked in from school, he was at the kitchen table again. Papers spread out. His phone on speaker. a man's voice low and measured on the other end. "She's lived there." "Yes," the man was saying. "But if you've resided in the property for over 20 years and made improvements, there may be an argument." "I told you," Ray said, glancing up at me. "Implied tenancy. Sweat equity. She can't just erase that." Judith stepped in behind me. Calm, unhurried. "Who's on the phone?" she asked. "My attorney," Ray replied. The man cleared his throat. "Mrs. McBride, I understand you're the titled owner. However, if your son contributed financially, I paid the property taxes every year," Judith said. "In my name. They're on record." Ray's jaw tightened. "I replaced the furnace." He cut in. "With my check," Judith said evenly. $4,200, issued from my account. "I installed it," Ray snapped. "You volunteered your labor." She replied, "You weren't a tenant. You were my son." Silence stretched through the speaker. "And the roof." Judith continued, $7,400, also mine. The receipt is in the file cabinet." Ray's attorney tried again. "Mr. McBride, do you have documentation of a written agreement? Any transfer of ownership?" "A life estate." Ray didn't answer immediately. "I refinanced it in 2011. He said finally. "You tried to," Judith corrected. "The bank denied it, because your name isn't on the deed. That stopped him." "I hadn't known that." "There was never any promise." Judith went on. "I allowed you to live there. That is not the same as ownership." Ray's voice hardened. "You let me build my life there. I let you stay," she said. "After your father died. That was mercy, not a contract." The attorney spoke carefully now. "Without documentation, Mr. McBride, your position is weak." Ray grabbed the phone and ended the call. "Weak," he muttered. "That's what lawyers say when they don't want to fight." Judith set her handbag on the table. Deliberate. "I've spoken to David Mercer," she said. "He'll issue a formal notice to quit. You'll have 30 days. If you contest it, we proceed to court. You'd file against your own son." Ray asked. "You filed first," she said quietly. He turned to me then, like I was the real opponent. "You understand what court means?" he said. "Legal fees. Public record. You're dragging this family through mud over a college letter. You tried to withdraw it," Judith said. "I was protecting her. From what she asked. From debt," he said. "From disappointment. From thinking she's better than where she came from." My hands were shaking, but I didn't hide them. "I don't think I'm better than this house," I said. "I think I deserve a choice." Ray stepped closer. Not shouting. Worse than shouting. "You leave for that campus," he said, voice low. "Don't expect me at graduation." The threat landed heavier than I expected. Judith unfolded a document and placed it in front of him. 30 days, she said. "Vacate voluntarily, or we let a judge decide." He stared at the paper, then at her, then at me. "This is because she got one letter," he said. "One letter, and suddenly I'm disposable." "No," Judith replied. "You made yourself disposable when you decided control mattered more than her future." The refrigerator hummed in the background, steady, indifferent. Ray didn't touch the document. For the first time in this house, he didn't dictate the outcome, and that silence felt different. Ray didn't slam doors anymore. He went quiet. Then he went public. My phone started buzzing while I was upstairs trying to read. It kept lighting up, one notification after another. I thought it was group chat noise at first. It wasn't. Caleb knocked once and stepped in without waiting. "You need to look at this," he said. I already knew it was bad. Ray's profile picture was still him in his work truck, arms crossed like he was posing for a campaign sign. Under it, he'd posted, "When your own mother and daughter try to push you out of the house you've maintained for 20 years, elder exploitation is real. Comments were piling up. "Stay strong. That's disgraceful. Kids these days don't understand sacrifice." My chest felt tight. Not angry yet, just exposed. "He tagged half the town," Caleb said. "Church group, too." I scrolled. He'd written that he'd invested over $50,000 into improvements, that he'd replaced systems, renovated rooms, paid utilities, that he was being threatened with eviction by legal maneuvering. And then my daughter's guidance counselor has been filling her head with ideas about scholarships and independence. Independence. Judith came in and took the phone gently from my hand. "He filed a complaint this morning," she said. "What kind of complaint with the Area Agency on Aging?" She replied, "Alleging financial exploitation." I stared at her. "He says I'm manipulating him out of his home." Ray's voice floated up the stairs. "They'll investigate," he called out. "You want courts? Fine, let's bring the state into it." Judith didn't raise her voice. "They already scheduled an interview." "Without you present." Ray stepped into my doorway. "You think they won't see what's happening?" he asked her. "They'll see ownership records," she said, "and 20 years of tax receipts." He looked at me then. "You could have talked to me," he said. "Instead, you humiliate me." "You posted it," I replied. "You forced my hand." Caleb shifted beside me. "You taking her side?" Ray asked him. Caleb didn't answer. That silence said enough. Ray exhaled sharply. "Utilities are in my name," he said. "Electric, internet, water. See how long scholarships matter when the lights go out." "That's intimidation," Judith said. "That's leverage." He corrected. He walked away before anyone responded. The buzzing on my phone kept going. It wasn't just a family fight anymore. It was a performance. And Ray wasn't done performing. Caleb didn't knock this time. He came into my room and shut the door behind him. His face looked wrong, pale, tight. "I found something," he said. "Where Dad's desk." My stomach dropped. "He locked it," Caleb said, "but he keeps the spare key in the garage, inside the old paint can." I stared at him. "You went through his stuff. He goes through ours." "Fair." Caleb held out his phone. "Look." It was a picture of a stack of envelopes, all addressed to me, different return addresses, Penn State, a small college in Harrisburg, even one from Pittsburgh. The postmarks were months old. He kept them. I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. "There's more." He swiped. Financial aid notifications, housing information, a congratulatory card from someone named Laura Donahue dated 8 years ago. I remembered the name. My mom's sister. Ray told us she'd stopped caring. He hadn't mailed it. He intercepted everything. Caleb said, "This isn't about Rosie's." It's been years. The air in my room felt thick. I could smell dust from the heater vent. I wanted to punch something. "He said they rejected you," Caleb continued. "Remember sophomore year? That summer program." I did remember. I cried for 2 days. "He never sent the application," Caleb said quietly. That hit deeper than the torn letter. That was years. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed. "He made me think I wasn't good enough," I said. Caleb's jaw tightened. "You are." We both knew he meant more than college. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "I'm going to court," I said. He nodded once. Then he hesitated. "I don't want to turn into him," he said. "You won't." I told him. I hoped I wasn't lying. A knock echoed through the house. Firm. Official. Caleb and I looked at each other. "That's probably the process server," he said. My heart started racing, but not from fear. From something steadier. This time, the paper wasn't in his hands. It was in ours. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Fluorescent lights, hard benches, everything echoing slightly when someone shifted in their seat. Ray stood beside his attorney in a gray suit that looked newer than the one he wore to weddings. He didn't look at me. He looked at the judge like this was a negotiation he intended to win. Judith stood next to David Mercer. Calm, hands folded, not trembling. The judge adjusted her glasses. "Mr. McBride," she said, "you're contesting the notice to quit." Ray's attorney stood. "Your Honor, Mr. McBride has resided in the property for over 20 years. He paid utilities, performed substantial improvements, and reasonably relied on what he believed to be a permanent living arrangement." "Permanent?" the judge asked. "He raised his children there." The attorney continued. "He maintained the property." David rose slowly. "The deed is recorded," he said, "filed in 2003. Sole owner Judith Ann McBride. Property taxes paid exclusively by her. No life estate, no written lease, no transfer of interest." He handed up copies. Ray's attorney tried again. "My client replaced the furnace and roofing with Mrs. de McBride's funds." David replied, $4,200 for the furnace, $7,400 for the roof. We have canceled checks." The judge looked directly at Ray. "Do you have documentation granting you ownership or lifetime tenancy?" Ray cleared his throat. "She let me live there," he said, "for 20 years. That is not ownership." The judge replied, "It was understood." Ray pressed, "You don't let a man invest his life somewhere and then take it away." Judith spoke, her voice steady. "I never transferred the house. I never promised it. I allowed my son to stay after his father died." Ray's composure cracked. "You'd put me out over this," he said. "Over her going away to college." The judge looked at me briefly, then back at him. "Is that the issue?" she asked. Ray exhaled sharply. "She's been manipulated," he said. "Guidance counselors, scholarships. She thinks she's too good for her family." David's voice cut in. "She earned a scholarship of $14,500 annually. The timing of this eviction is directly tied to Mr. McBride's attempt to interfere with her enrollment." The judge tapped her pen once. "Mr. McBride," she said. "This court recognizes recorded deeds and written agreements. You have neither." Ray stepped forward before his attorney could stop him. "I built my life there," he said. "I raised my children there. That counts." "It counts emotionally," the judge replied. "Not legally." Silence filled the room. Notice was given for 30 days. She continued, "You chose to contest it. The court grants possession to Mrs. McBride. You have 15 days to vacate." Ray stared at her. 15, he said. "You were offered 30 without litigation," she said calmly. "You declined." The gavel tapped once. It didn't feel dramatic. It felt final. Outside, the gravel popped under Ray's boots as he walked toward his truck. He stopped before opening the door. "You think this makes you strong," he said without turning around. I stepped closer than I meant to. "No," I said. "It just makes it mine." He stood there a moment longer. Then he got in and drove away. I expected to feel victorious. I didn't. I felt something quieter, like a door had opened and something else had closed. Ray didn't use all 15 days. He left on the 14th, boxes stacked in the driveway, tools in plastic bins. He worked fast, like finishing a job before a storm hits. Caleb stood there with his hands shoved into his jacket. "You want help?" Caleb asked. Ray didn't look at him. "I'll handle it." He loaded the last box into the truck bed and shut the tailgate harder than he needed to. He looked at me once. "You satisfied?" he asked. "I don't know yet," I said. He gave a short nod. Like that confirmed something he'd already decided. I signed a lease. He added, 1 bedroom, month to month. Judith stood on the porch, above an auto body shop. She said quietly. Ray ignored that. "I'll land on my feet," he said. "You always do." She replied. He hesitated. "Just a second. Don't make her forget where she came from." He said to Judith. "I won't," she answered, "but I won't make her stay either." He got into the truck and started the engine. Gravel cracked under the tires as he pulled away. The house felt strange after that. Not peaceful, just less charged. Later that evening, Judith sat at the kitchen table with a notepad. "I'll list it for rent," she said. $1,650 a month should cover most of next year's expenses. You don't have to carry this. I said, "I'm not carrying you." She replied, "I'm investing." Caleb leaned against the counter. "I'm staying with Uncle Mark for a while," he said, "just until things settle." Ray hadn't asked him to come. That sat heavier than I expected. I walked past Ray's empty room before bed. The air still smelled faintly like motor oil. Judith stepped beside me, holding a small cedar box. "There's one more thing," she said quietly. Judith handed me the cedar box like it weighed more than it should. "I kept this from him," she said. I opened it slowly. The hinge made a soft creak. Inside was an envelope, my name written in my mother's handwriting, slanted, familiar. I stopped breathing for a second. She wrote it before she got sick. Judith said. She told me not to give it to Ray. I slid the letter out. The paper felt thin from being folded too long. "If I don't get to finish, you will." That was the first line. There was more. About nursing school. About not settling. About how fear can look like love if you stare at it long enough. My throat tightened. There was another envelope underneath. "What's this?" I asked. $5,000. Judith said. "Your mother saved it quietly. She was going to use it for classes. Ray didn't know. He never noticed when money disappeared if it wasn't his." I let out a shaky breath. So she was planning to leave. She was planning to try. Judith corrected. That word hit harder. I folded the letter carefully and put it back in the box. "I'm angry at her," I said quietly. "For staying." Judith didn't argue. "I was too," she said. We sat there in silence. Grief isn't loud. It just settles in and waits its turn. "I won't waste this," I said finally. Judith nodded once. "Don't waste yourself either," she replied. The box stayed open between us, like something unfinished. The leaves were loud under my shoes the day he called. I almost didn't answer. "Hello?" I said. Silence. Then his voice, lower than I remembered. "I heard you made Dean's List." I leaned against the brick wall outside my dorm. "Yeah," I said. "I did." A pause. "Your mother would have been proud," he said. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even soft. Just factual. "I know," I replied. He cleared his throat. I could picture him doing it. I didn't mean for it to go that far. He said, "It already did." I answered. Another pause. "You think I'm the villain," he said. "I think you were scared," I said, "and you handled it wrong." "That's generous. It's accurate." He exhaled. "You coming home for Thanksgiving?" He asked. "Home. I'll visit," I said, "when you're ready to talk without trying to own me." The line went quiet. "I don't know how to do that," he admitted. "Learn," I said. I didn't hang up angry. I just ended the call. I stood there for a minute. The air smelled like damp leaves and cold metal from the bike rack nearby. Here's the part nobody tells you. Winning doesn't fix everything. Leaving doesn't erase loyalty. You can walk away and still carry pieces of the people who hurt you. If you're in something like this, don't wait for perfect clarity. Don't wait for someone to grant you permission to grow. Sometimes the only thing you get is a choice. And sometimes that's enough. I'm still figuring it out, but at least now, it's my figuring.